The next one's a mustard plaster. And mustard plasters were used a lot back years ago, especially in 1918. Do you remember what happened in 1918? The influenza. And there was two major treatments that they used that were very, very effective on addressing the influenza. One was a mustard plaster, and the other one was a revulsive treatment, a hydrotherapy treatment of hot and cold on the chest with fomentations. But the mustard plaster is what we're looking at today. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, let's see here, I use 3 parts flour. Now I like using whole wheat flour instead of white flour because the white flour is stickier and it's just harder to manage. So I'm going to use 3 parts wheat flour. And then 1 part mustard. The thing with mustard is you don't know how hot mustard is, the heating units of mustard, like cayenne. On cayenne, this cayenne right here is about 180,000 HUs. Cayenne can go up to 2.1 million HUs. What you buy in the store might just be 20,000 HUs, heating units. They measure cayenne, but they don't measure mustard. So you'll have to kind of test it, that bag of mustard or jar of mustard you bought, and figure out you need to add a little more, a little less to get that heat that you want. So what you're going to do is you're going to mix it well, kind of like the charcoal and the psyllium powder. You want to mix it thoroughly because that wheat is the binder. You could probably use psyllium with it too. Because that's all it's doing is just binding it. Now we're going to add water, and you want it about as thick as is if you're making biscuit dough. So we'll just have to play with it. And you want to make it large enough for the affected area. So let's say a person has pneumonia. Well, this is what I'm going to put on them. Needs a little bit more water. And you want it enough, I would probably put it on both lungs. And you can put it on the front and the back. You don't just have to put it on the front. That's a good consistency there. About like biscuit dough. Well mixed. Now the difference in a mustard plaster and a charcoal poultice you're pulling out the toxins and it's actually the charcoal poultice is soaking up stuff. The mustard plaster, what it's doing, it's increasing vascular flow. It's increasing more blood flow to that area, so it's not getting contaminated. So you can actually use your mustard plaster 5-6 times. Again, I use the either the Walmart bag or the t-shirt bag, we call it. Plastic bag. Now when I was in Venezuela, they don't have the luxury, many places out in the bush, of plastic. And so when they're making charcoal poultices or mustard plasters, they're using a sheet. And they'll use that sheet over and over and over. And so that will work. We used to use a paper towel. When I first started making charcoal poultices, I would just use a paper towel and make it wet on the outside, and it will soak right through it. So you can, depending on where you are around the world, you might be listening in Africa right now, or you might be listening in Malaysia. So depending on where you are is what you use in hand. Now, obviously, this won't work for an adult lung. It might work fine for one side of an infant. Now, the charcoal poultice, we made it 1/4 of an inch thick, 1/4 of an inch thick. On the mustard plaster, we're making it 1/8 of an inch thick. Now the difference in the charcoal poultice and the mustard plaster, unless you made just a small charcoal poultice, you're taking a part of that charcoal poultice and you're putting it on the hand, and you're getting a piece of cellophane and putting it on it. But on the mustard plaster, you're making one the size for one thing. And so let's say that you have inflammation in the hand, or let's say that you were putting it on the lung, that you would put it directly on, you won't put any barrier, put it on, and you'll leave the plastic. You don't want to throw away this piece of plastic, because when you pull it off, you're going to put that plastic back on there, roll it up, and it's ready to use another time. You don't want to use a mustard plaster on children less than 2 years of age, because mustard plasters can burn. They actually can, if you leave them on too long, they can actually blister the skin. So we don't use it on children less than 2 years of age, because they can't say, that's getting hot, I'm starting to feel hot. They're just trusting you, or they might start crying. So you want them old enough to say, that's starting to burn. If so, take it off. Normally, people will leave it on anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. But if they say it's getting too hot prior to that 10 minutes, take it off. Don't say, well, we got to leave it on there for 10 minutes. I'm sorry. You might blister that child or blister that adult. So just take it off, and then you'll use it again. So that's the mustard. A mustard plaster. Chest congestion, bronchitis, boils, fevers, arthritis. It's a good detox to the area, reduces inflammation. If you have chest issues, you can use the mustard plaster on both sides, both on the front and the back, and address it, and it'll be twice as effective. Sciatica, you know what sciatic pain is? That's that pain that runs down through here, and very painful. It's good for sciatica. Neck pain, backaches, neuralgia, muscle pain, and croup. Now, if it's a young baby who has croup or colic, it's a good chance it's because mama's not nursing and she's feeding it some type of formula that they're having an allergic reaction to. Get that mama to start nursing that baby. And we talked about that on Old Mountain Remedies by diagnosis on how to do that. So see if you can get that mama to nurse, and many times that will take care of that problem.